And welcome to, hold on, I have something funky. Good evening and welcome to our collaborative event this evening with MEFA and Blackstone Valley Education Foundation. I'm Erica Baum, I'm the Executive Director of BVEF, and I welcome you to our event tonight. We will be focusing on after the college acceptance. For those of you that are with us tonight, whether you are a high school senior trying to figure out which college you want to go to, or a mom, dad, or other caregiver, possibly a school counselor or another educator who possibly has your own child going through this process, welcome. And I truly encourage you to thank your child's principal and superintendent because of your BVEF membership and our partnership with MEFA. This event is free to you this evening. With me tonight, Julie Shields-Rutina, who is the Director of College Planning for MEFA, will be facilitating the entire evening. She's fabulous. Also with us, I see John Hughes just popped up, and he will be doing a manning our Q&A. So Julie, do you have some slides?
Oh, yes.
Perfect. So just to talk about our community agreements, please know that this session will be recorded. And so you're consenting to being recorded throughout the evening. We do encourage you to participate, but again, please use the Q&A and use the Q&A throughout the whole process. We can kind of take questions as we go throughout the evening. Next slide, please. Our goals this evening, obviously, is to provide opportunities to, engage our community partners to learn how college financing impacts the decision making. That's where we are at this stage in the game, right? You've been accepted to some different places. How do you decide where to go? What variables do we need to consider? And that's what Julie's going to help us navigate this evening. And obviously, we also want to continue always building the connections across our member and affiliate member school districts and our community partners. So thank you for joining us this evening. I'm going to turn it over to Julie now. Feel free, again, ask questions as we go. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Erica. And I'll just a couple of other little pieces. We mentioned you're going to type into the Q&A if you have questions, and Jonathan will be right there to respond to those or share them out loud. If you need closed captioning, you can also click the CC button either at the top or bottom of your screen, and you'll get a live transcript of the words. So I wanted to mention that as well. And let me also say that MEFA has a section of our website, mefa.org/collegebound, that has a lot of the information and materials and tools and calculators that we're going to talk about tonight. So if you'd like to use any of those afterwards, just remember it, and you can go to mefa.org/collegebound. And for those of you who don't know MEFA, we are a not-for-profit organization here in Massachusetts. And we've been around since 1982 and helping families plan, save, and pay for college. And we really do that with students of all ages. But tonight, we're working with those of you with students finishing up their high school experience and making that college decision. So I guess first, I should just say that congratulations are in order. If you're at this stage, you probably have a student who has received some college acceptances, and that is no small achievement. So despite the fact that some of this can be overwhelming and stressful and a big decision, I hope that you're taking the time to really enjoy that and patting yourselves on the backs a little bit, both students and parents, for getting to this point and getting to this point during this very challenging year. So I hope you feel really good about that. So what we're going to talk about tonight is we're going to have you understand your financial aid offers. So we're going to go through and look at some financial aid offers, what they look like, how to compare them. So we'll talk about that. We'll also talk about your options if you haven't yet applied for financial aid. And then we'll talk about some real financial pieces, how to calculate the balance due at the college that you're hoping to attend, or at all of the colleges where you've been accepted, so that you can see if they are affordable for you and your family. And we really want you to make a financially wise college decision. You know, you want to choose a college that's going to be good academically, socially, geographically, but also financially. And then we'll give you some steps to develop a plan for paying the college bill. So let's just revisit this a little bit, because this is important to know that the two types of financial aid that are awarded to students are merit-based and need-based. And you likely, if you have financial aid offers there, you know, on your computer, on your kitchen table, you probably will see a little bit of a mix of merit-based aid and need-based aid. So a reminder that merit-based aid has been awarded to your student based on some achievements on their part. So that could be academic, most likely. That's really where the most amount of merit-based aid is awarded, for academic achievement. But it could also be athletic or artistic, some other reason that the college really sees qualities in your student and wants the student to attend that college, and is using some merit-based aid to entice and enhance the financial aid offer. So what's good to know about that is the criteria for merit aid differs from school to school. So if your student is a B+ student, then your student may likely receive merit aid at some schools, maybe schools that have a lot of students who are in that B category. But if your student applied to some colleges that have all A students, maybe your student would receive a little bit less merit-based aid. So again, the merit aid can vary, and it depends on the year, how many applications the college receives, and you know, where your student falls in putting together a diverse class. So that's what to know about merit aid. Usually merit aid can be renewable for all of the other years, but sometimes it has criteria like the student has to keep a certain grade point average to keep that merit aid. So that's good to ask about if that's not clear. And then there's need-based aid. And need-based aid is awarded based on your family's information that you put on the financial aid forms. And so there's a standardized formula, and the colleges take your financial situation into consideration and then award need-based aid based on that. So this is an example of what your financial aid offer might look like. However, I will just tell you a note that financial aid offers are not consistent from college to college. They really can look very different. And in fact, there was a study done by an organization in Boston named You Aspire a number of years ago. And they took a look at what award letters looked like from college to college, because they found that the students they worked with were very confused about these financial aid offers. And for example, they found, I might have the number wrong, but something like 137 different ways that a college could list that federal direct loan. 137, they just found no consistency. You know, some colleges called it the old name, or the William D. Ford, or direct subsidized loan, federal direct subsidized loan. So that in and of itself, one element that's on most award letters was called very different things from college to college. So these offers can be a little bit confusing. So let's take you through what you need to know. So the first is that some colleges will put the costs on the award offer. And that's really good if they do. If they just break down the tuition, the fees, the room, board, books, supplies, miscellaneous expenses, that's good. If they don't, you probably have to find out that information, so you'll have a good understanding of what the costs are. But all colleges will put the financial aid on the award offer. And so you should see different types of aid, like grants and scholarships, which is the best kind, money that's awarded to the student and doesn't have to be repaid. So some examples on the one we see right here, ABC University grant. So that is, a grant from the college. Then there's federal SEOG and federal Pell Grant. Those are federal grants, also great. And then the Mass Grant is a Massachusetts state grant. So this student has 4 different types of grants from all different sources. But anyway, that's great. And then the other types of aid that you might see listed are work study and loans. So work study is an allotment to the student to be able to work when they're a student and get paid. Now, one thing to note about work study is you as the family, you're not going to have that money up front because the student has to work and get paid. So just keep that in mind. That's not going to be able to pay the bill that comes in the summertime, but it is money that the student's going to be able to earn to pay for things like personal expenses and books and transportation during the college year. So that's great. And then the loans that you'll see on your aid offer it could be a few others too, but the most common ones and the ones you see here are the federal direct subsidized loan and the federal direct unsubsidized loan. And those are loans from the federal government awarded directly to the student, no cosigner, no credit check. And the difference between those two is subsidized loan means that the federal government pays the interest on that loan while the student is in college. And the federal direct unsubsidized portion, the federal government does not pay that interest. So that interest does begin to accrue on that one. But they both have good other benefits, which we can talk about. But again, that's the full amount that the student can receive as a freshman, and you will see this on a lot of your award offers. So here's a little more about those federal loans, because again, you'll probably see them on most of your aid offers. Low fixed interest rate, but it does change annually. So currently it's 2.75, but that will change in May. So just keep your eye out for that and what the interest rate will be. I talked about subsidized versus unsubsidized. There is a small fee that comes off the loan. But students can receive $5,500 in this loan as a freshman, $65 as a sophomore, and $75 as a junior and a senior. And if the student takes all of the federal loans they're eligible for during a 4-year undergraduate degree, they'll probably graduate with about $30,000 in loans. And that translates into about a $300 payment on the regular 10-year repayment plan. Now, the other nice benefit of these loans is that there are many other repayment options. So students can choose a repayment plan, and it could be tied to income. So if they don't make enough money to pay that $300 a month, they could choose an income-based repayment plan that would lower their payment. So there are choices. And in order to get this loan, you would accept the loans on the financial aid offer, and then the college will probably direct you to studentaid.gov, where the student can go in and do some entrance counseling and sign the promissory note. And the entrance counseling is really just some information, read about the loan, understand the repayment options in the future, understand about subsidized, unsubsidized, and then take a little quiz, just so that the student really understands what they're getting into with these loans. So another process that you might come in contact with right around now is that you've applied for financial aid, hopefully. And if you have, and you have an aid offer, sometimes colleges need to perform a task called verification, where they need to verify a certain percentage of the FAFSAs that come in. And so what that means is sometimes they might write to you and ask you for additional information, such as a tax transcript or a verification worksheet. As a parent, the ones I remember receiving, I received one at one point that I had to verify that my son had a sibling in college. That was one I had to verify. Another one I had to verify was that my daughter didn't make enough money to have to file taxes. So that's the type of thing that sometimes they ask questions and you have to verify. So the key thing here is once you've applied for financial aid, especially once, your student has been admitted and you have the aid offer and your student is thinking of attending that college, don't miss any emails. Make sure you follow up on anything. Sometimes there's a college portal and they might have missing documentation there. So try to stay on top of all of this follow up with the colleges. Now, hopefully many of you have applied and you have some financial aid offers, but I would say that if you have not applied for financial aid yet, there's still time. Now, many colleges have deadlines that passed, meaning probably your student has missed out on some grant and scholarship dollars if the deadline has passed. However, the Massachusetts state financial aid deadline is May 1st, so there's still time to apply and receive state aid. And there's also time, you can always apply to receive federal aid, including those direct loans that we mentioned. So just know it's not too late. And at the end, I'm actually going to share a flyer about a FAFSA event that MEFA is holding. So if you know anyone who hasn't done their FAFSA and needs help, we have some information to help with that. So I'll also just say a word about the waitlist. So perhaps your student has received some acceptances, which are great, maybe some denials, some colleges you weren't admitted to, and that's okay. That's a part of this process too. It's just a process and it happens to everyone. But you also might have received kind of a confusing middle ground, which is the wait list. Maybe you were admitted to the wait list. So what do you do if you're admitted to the wait list? I guess I'm going to tell you a couple of things you should do, and they're kind of opposite. So one thing you need to do is, on some level, you need to move on, because many schools have a long wait list and it doesn't really move too much, or it might move a little bit. It's not a numerical list where, oh, you're number 44, you're number 12. It's a way that colleges have that wait list so that when some students tell them they're not coming, it's a way to round out their class. So that's kind of how they use the wait list. So there's no guarantee you'll be accepted off the wait list. So on some level, you need to just move on, look at your second choice, third choice, fourth choice colleges, and try to start thinking about a plan to see if you'd like to attend one of those. At the same time, and let me say one more thing, and definitely by May 1st, when you have to tell a college you're going to come, you should definitely accept at another college and submit your enrollment deposit at that other college, because you don't want to miss out because you're waiting for something. And just know, if later you get off the wait list at the other school, you will probably forfeit that enrollment deposit, but you just have to do that because you need to move on. At the same time, if you're accepted on a wait list and you're really interested in the college, you should let them know that you are interested and you want to formally accept your spot on the wait list. You want to write a note to the admissions counselor saying, yes, I'm interested, and here are the reasons why I think I'd be great at your school. And you can, if you have any new awards or grades and you want to tell them anything, you can feel free to do that. And I have heard to keep in touch with them often, because as the weeks go on, they assume that maybe people are making other decisions. So if you remain interested in that school where you've been accepted on the wait list, continue to tell the admissions office, while at the same time moving on in your brain. I hope that made sense. Any questions, John, that we should talk about out loud before we move into the nitty-gritty of calculating the balance due?
Oh, yeah, there's been, I think, one topic where we've had a couple of questions, and that is on state aid. So, and the question actually that was answering at the moment, which I think I was going to ask you about anyways, is Massachusetts state aid only for Massachusetts state schools?
And it is. Oh, well, I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that. Most of it, but some can be used at private schools in Massachusetts too. So there are different programs. A lot of it is for the state, but there are some programs that can be used at private institutions in Mass too, but in Massachusetts.
But not out of state then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
No, that's, and then are you notified separately if you're eligible for these programs?
And no, that's such a good question. So really the college is the, I'm going to call the college the coordinator of all of this aid, you know, from the federal government, from the state, and their own college aid. So when you receive that financial aid offer, it should have all of that aid from all of those sources right on it.
And I think that's it.
Oh, great. So then we looked at how all of those award offers can look different. And so what I really want to caution you about is when you're looking at this from a financial perspective, you really want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples, because I've seen some colleges send out a separate letter maybe about the merit aid, and it might say something to the effect of, congratulations, you've received $80,000 from our university, and it's due to your high academic achievement. We're so excited to have you. And that's what it will say. But what that means is that's for the whole time you're there, it's $20,000 per year, which is still wonderful. But if you're looking at one college that's telling you that and another college that's really just giving you the first year, you know, you just want to make sure that you're looking at apples to apples to be able to compare and look at the affordability. So MEFA has this great calculator, this college cost calculator that we love. And you can find it right here, mefa.org/college cost calculator. And this is what we advise that you do, is that you take all your award offers and, you know, you put the school right in here in each one. Like in this case, you can have 4. I believe you can have up to 6. And the first thing you do is you put in all of the costs, tuition fees, room and board, book supplies for these colleges. And as I mentioned, it's great when you can find that right on the award offer, which many times you can. But if you don't have it on the award offer, try to get that information from the financial aid office or the college website so that you can, again, compare. And then you want to put in the aid that you've been awarded, that you've been offered. So you put that all in here, and here's all the grants, and then here are the loans. And then if there's anything else that just somehow isn't listed over here, you can put that in. And what that will do is it will show you a balance due. Am I going in there? I guess I am. Yes, and this is it on our website. So let's say, I'll just say University of B, I'll just make that up. And you type in the tuition and fees and room and board, books and supplies, transportation, health insurance, and we'll talk about that. And then we'll do Pell Grant. SEOG, state grant, college grants. And maybe you have a high school scholarship you're going to bring in too. That would be good. And then you have the loans. And the school gave you one of their own loans too. And you have $2,000 of savings you're going to put in there too. So then you can see the annual costs of this college, and then the annual gift aid and student loans and other resources. And so this would tell you the remaining cost at this college is $28,000. So then you as a family would have to say, is this affordable compared to, and you'd go through and put the other colleges in there. And maybe you'll get some other colleges that gave, $30,000. And when you see that remaining cost, I guess maybe I have to recalculate that. Here we go. Now the remaining cost at this other school, let's pretend, is $13,000. Maybe that's more doable. Or maybe there's a school that there is no remaining cost, which is really ideal. So this is what you can do with your financial aid offers to really get a good sense of what's going to be affordable for your family. And then to have conversations about that. One other quick piece I'll say is this health insurance here. All colleges charge a health insurance fee because students are required to have health insurance. However, if the student is on the parent's health insurance, which is many times the case, then families can waive that health insurance. Just look for that waiver with the school to make sure you waive that cost. And sometimes it's a big cost, $1,200 or something. So don't forget to do that. So then after you have those results from that calculator, then you really have to say, okay, what is the net price? What are we going to have to pay as a family? Which of these colleges seems affordable? And to also think about that this isn't for 1 year, it's for 4 years. So you really want to think about it has to be affordable over the long term. And you want to limit any borrowing you do. So whatever borrowing you're going to do, you want to make sure that you can handle it this year in the monthly payment, and you'll be able to handle it in subsequent years when the student you may have to borrow for years 2, 3, and 4 as well. So let's talk about the balance due. And you have to figure out as a family, is this affordable or not? So how do you figure that out? You have to think about what are all the ways we're going to be able to pay this balance due. And the first place you should look is, do you have any savings? Do you have any money that's available to pay the bill? And that can be in 529 college savings plans or prepaid tuition plans that were set aside specifically for college, or savings bonds, which would be wonderful if you have any money that way. But it could also just be other money in stocks, CDs, students' bank accounts, other investments. What of your past income, what of your savings do you have available for college? So that's a good thing to think through. And I'll also give you the information if you have one of these MEFA programs, the U Plan or the U Fund. You can be in touch. On the left, the information is for the U Plan, and on the right for the U Fund. Be in touch, you can call, and you will be able to get your money and have it pay for college in the year you need it. And both of these processes are pretty simple. So you'll have a copy of this presentation, and you'll have all this information to be able to access these funds. And then something else you can think about is that all colleges have an interest-free monthly payment plan that allows you to pay your college bill over anywhere from 5 to 12 months. So there are no interest charges or credit requirements, but there usually is an enrollment fee. I think it's usually about $60, and you can join, and that just allows you to pay on a monthly basis instead of twice a year, which is kind of the norm. So this is a great option to minimize your borrowing. If you feel like, I'll give the example, maybe maybe you just paid off a car loan or something, and you have an extra amount of money every month that you would be able to pay toward the college bill right out of your current income. So look for that information from the college as soon as you accept in May, June, or July. And the earlier you start in the payment plan, the longer it's spread out, and so the lower your monthly payment can be. So if you start paying in May or June, your monthly payment on that bill could be lower than if you wait till August or September. And the college should send you information on that, but you can ask if they don't. And then what's your third option? It would be borrowing, future income and borrowing. And most families that I know, between savings, current income, and borrowing, kind of piece it together and do different things different years. Maybe sometimes families have some savings to pay the first year, or can kind of work it out with the monthly payment plan and some savings, but may have to start borrowing in future years. But many times it's a mix of all three. So what do you need to know about borrowing? The first is that you really want to be smart about it, and you don't want to borrow any more than you need. You want to keep it minimal, because again, it could continue on for the next 4 years. Any loans other than those federal student loans that we've already mentioned are going to do a credit check on you. So do know what your credit history is, your credit score. That will be important to make sure that you can get that loan. And again, you want to think in terms of 4 years total debt. Is that affordable? What's that monthly payment? And the student might want to think about, do they have a clear idea of their major or career, employment rates and starting salaries in that field? So just some things to think about. The example I sometimes give is that I'm going to call WPI right out in Worcester, that as an engineering school, they are able to publish that their graduates who graduate with an engineering degree on average start with a pretty high starting salary. And so a student who is going into a program like that that can talk to the school and see about starting salary rates. Of course, you never know what will happen, and that's an average. That doesn't mean every student is going to earn a high salary right upon graduation, but it at least might give the student a little bit of a feeling of comfort of, okay, well, most likely I will be able to pay these loans. So I can feel maybe a little more comfortable borrowing, versus many students who really don't know exactly what they're going to do after college. And so that is more of a question mark in the future. And they might want to be even just a little more careful with debt. But the important things you want to know are fixed or variable interest rate. You want to know the repayment timeline, and you want to know who's going to be the primary borrower. Is it the parent? Is it the student? Is it both? Those are all really important things. So what you want to do is basically do your research and shop for the best type of financing, as you would do with any other type of debt. And what you can know is, if you are shopping for an educational loan all at the same time, that only does count as one tick on your credit. So if you want to put this in your calendar, there's going to be more information about comparing all of your college loan options on these MEFA webinars on June 2nd and July 8th. So MEFA has this great calculator that I really like. So when you are doing your research, some of the places you might want to look for additional loans would be the federal government has a PLUS loan, parent loan for undergraduate students. That's something you might want to look into. MEFA has terrific loans. So I definitely suggest coming here to this calculator to check this out. And then if you have your own bank that you work with, you could ask them about educational loans. You could also ask the college if they work with certain lenders. So that's what I would do. And then just choose a loan that has terms that are the best for your family. So why I like MEFA's calculator, no matter where you're going to borrow from, is that you put in just a few pieces of information: amount you need to borrow, years before graduation, and your credit profile. So here we said 20,000 for 4 years. Good. and calculate. And this just gives you all of the terms of the different types of loans. So if you choose an immediate repayment loan that you pay back over 10 years, you can see that the in-school monthly payment is $211. You can see the interest rate, what the total cost of the loan is. And then you can look at the loan. If you defer payment, then you're not paying the payment while the student is in school, but after graduation, the payment is $243 a month for 132 months. So I just think this is great. And then no matter where you borrow from, make sure you understand all this information about whatever loan that you're borrowing. So here's just an example, right? If your student chooses a college and there's a $20,000 balance due, that seems so overwhelming, and all of you will handle that differently. You'll all have a slightly different way of paying a $20,000 bill. So this is just one example of a family and how they are able to do this. So they might have some student savings, maybe from the student working the prior summer. There might be some parent savings in there. Maybe the parents said, okay, we can join the monthly payment plan and we're going to pay $500 a month for 10 months. And then they decided we're going to borrow an educational loan of $10,000. And that's how they're going to come up with the $20,000 to pay for the school year. So John, I'll stop there for a minute in case there are some other things we should discuss.
I think it might be good to talk a little bit more about borrowing, especially what students can borrow and the role of co-signers and things like that.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, so basically, when we go back and talk about the students are borrowing those federal student loans that we mentioned, right? So we mentioned that right off the bat, probably the student is going to graduate with about $30,000 in debt if they take all of those loans. And if you're considering other borrowing, they probably should take all of those federal loans. So the student is going to come out with that $30,000 debt and about a $300 payment. So then when you think about other loans on top of that, the Parent Plus loan is just in the parent's name. So as parents, you could take that loan. Most of the other loans, whether it be a MEFA loan or through another bank, will not let the student borrow on their own signature. So students will need to have a cosigner, which many times is the parent or could be someone else. And so that's a big thing to consider when you are taking those additional loans. Who's going to pay off that loan? Many times both people are on the note, both equally responsible, and I mean parent and student. So I sort of think that that is one of those important kitchen table conversations where you have to sit down with your student and say, you know, this is what we can do. This is what you'll have to do, and talk it through, because maybe that means not going to the most expensive school, maybe choosing option 2 or 3, second or third choice school that has a more affordable package, because the student just really needs to think about, okay, I'm going to repay these federal loans. How much additional debt can I take on? What's reasonable? Now, I know that some families kind of share that and maybe have a conversation to say, we'll take this out and we'll help you. But once you get out, you're working, you're earning more money, we'd like you to take it over. And just having that informal conversation about, we're doing this together, we're going to share this as a family. So I think parents, you need to think about what's good for you and how much you can borrow at this stage in your life. Are you close to retirement? Do you have other children you're also trying to put through college? Those are important things for you to think about. And then students, the things you need to think about are, how much debt do I want to have on the other end? How likely am I going to be able to pay a big loan off? Do I want to go to graduate school? Do I want to come back and live at home, or do I not want to come back and live at home? Therefore, I don't want to have a big loan to pay. So both students and parents need to do their own internal thinking and then come together and talk that through about what is a reasonable amount of debt to take on. What do you think, John? Does that answer some of what you've been hearing? Or?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great job.
Okay. All right, these are good questions. So then I'll say a few words about the timeline too, I guess. So the fall semester bill is usually sent in June or July, and then it's due in July or August. So you really can apply for any loans that you're going to apply for once you receive the bill, because once you receive the bill, you know what it is and you know what you need to borrow, and apply after that. And the process can be really quick. It can take a few days, but you should definitely leave a few weeks to make sure that you'll have the money by the time the bill deadline comes around. But there's not really a super rush to do that right now. However, what there is a rush to do is to have the plan before May 1st, because you do have to commit to a college on May 1st. And you just want to make sure that you know as a family that that's going to be an affordable option. So I'd say get this all together, make the plan, but you don't have to actually apply for the loan until the summer. And then the other piece is once you do accept admission at a college, then you can ask for that college payment plan information and start paying on that if you'd like to get a jump on that. So let's also talk a little bit about private scholarships. So at this point, it's not too late to continue to apply for outside private scholarships. And private scholarships kind of fall into two categories. The ones that are, big national searches that you can use any of these websites we've given you here, MEFApathway.org, collegeboard.org, FastWeb, Going Merry. They all have scholarship searches that students can put in information about themselves and see a list of scholarships they can apply to. They can use the essays that they've written for college, the recommendations, and really try to apply for some outside money to maybe close that gap a little bit and keep that borrowing low. Also, MEFA puts out information on scholarships all the time if you follow us on Facebook or Twitter. So that's also great. But then there are also scholarships that are what I call closer to home. So does your high school offer some scholarships, maybe the town? So ask those questions of your school counselor and make sure that you apply for any of those scholarships that are closer to home. So the example I always use is that in my dentist office, for years, I was going to this dentist and she had a little note on her front desk that said each year she awards 2 scholarships to good community servants. So, I had my eye on that. And when it was my kid's turn to be a senior in high school, I made sure that I remembered that that was a scholarship they could apply to. So in the most unlikely of places, you might see a scholarship, your employers, any groups you're involved with. So here are a couple of terrific websites that I love to share. So these are ways that you can keep costs down for college. And so if you are using that college cost calculator and a lot of the colleges don't seem affordable. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully you have some good financial aid offers, but sometimes the offers just aren't enough because many colleges are not able to meet full need. So if that's the case, here are some other places you can look. Mass Transfer is a great website, and that is going to give you all kinds of information about all the ways that students can start at a community college here in Massachusetts and then transfer directly to a 4-year public institution or private institution and really keep the costs down. So some of the benefits for some of these programs include guaranteed admission to 4-year colleges, guaranteed credit transfer, there are tuition credits, there are tuition freezes. It depends on the program, but there are all these options and ways to keep college much more affordable here in Massachusetts. So check out that website. I would highly encourage that. And then the other one is Tuition Break. So this is a program of the New England Board of Higher Education. And this is basically ways that students can keep costs down by going to public institutions in other states in New England. So every out-of-state college in New England, and including our own in-state colleges and universities, have programs that they want to attract students from the other neighboring states. And so for certain programs, they offer a student, for example, to pay their in-state tuition, even if they're going out of state. So let's say UNH has a program that either Massachusetts doesn't have, or New Hampshire still wants to attract some Massachusetts folks. They could offer that program to Massachusetts students at the Massachusetts in-state college rate. So students can take a look at this website and see maybe there's some programs they're interested in, but this is another way to keep college costs low. So let's just say a few things about the financial aid office at these colleges. So once you have applied, you've been accepted, you've received a financial aid offer, the financial aid office is a great resource for you, and you should stay in touch with them. And the types of things you might want to ask them are about, say, the financial aid renewability criteria. Make sure if you have a financial aid offer that it's going to continue in future years. And as I mentioned with that merit aid, make sure you know if there's a certain grade point average a student needs to keep or something like that. You could also ask them about the treatment of private scholarships. Most of the time when you apply and bring in private scholarships, as I mentioned, like from my dentist, most of the time those can just fill in any unmet need, any costs that weren't covered. But if your student is receiving a full financial aid package from a certain college, then they might have to adjust the financial aid offer to accommodate these private scholarships. So just talk to them about what that means. Could you just take less loan? Could you forego your work study award? Things like that. That would be a good conversation to have with the financial aid office. And then a really important conversation to have is, especially this year, we know that when you applied for financial aid, you used 2019 income information. And we know a lot has changed and happened since then. And so we know there's probably been some job loss, maybe some medical bills, lots of changes for all of us. So if there are certain changes in your family circumstances, then you should definitely contact the financial aid office at the colleges and college where your student wants to go, and ask if you can share more information and let them know what has happened. What has there been income loss? What are the differences? And ask them how to do that. We did a webinar on appeals recently with 6 financial aid administrators from local colleges. And so if you go onto the MEFA website and click on videos and financial aid, I think you'll be able to see that appeals webinar video come up. And they shared just a whole lot of information about how to go about that appeal process, but definitely don't be shy about that. Share whatever you feel comfortable with. And the way to contact the financial aid office is you could have a phone call or an email, or if the website offers chat. I think email probably works the best these days. And right on the website, the financial aid section of a college's website, they should tell you what the financial aid email is. So what is next? So this hopefully can be a month of exploration, of really taking a hard look at all the colleges where the student has been accepted and making sure to make a really good decision. Hopefully there's some back and forth, some questions. Colleges have a lot that they're doing virtually, open houses virtually, things like that. So stay in touch with those colleges, learn as much as you can, and be in touch with them if you have financial concerns. But then you probably want to plan that by May 1st, you'll have to choose a college and put that enrollment deposit down. And also at the same time, begin with those conversations and planning as a family to pay the balance due, so that by the time you're paying that enrollment deposit in May, you have a good sense of how these bills are going to get paid. And just know MEFA is available to help you with this further. I mentioned the information and tools we talked about tonight are on that part of the website, mefa.org/collegebound. And you can also feel free to call us or ask us any questions via email. And here is our social media links. So follow us, especially for those scholarship posts. And again, you can always call MEFA, email MEFA, and we will be sending you this slide deck, so you'll have this. And here is a QR code so that you can, Erica will tell you about this too.
Hi, thank you so much, Julie. That was wonderful information. So yes, the slide before you right now, if you happen to have a phone nearby, just click on the camera and just point it at the QR code, and you will be automatically taken to a link for a very brief survey. And I mean very brief. I think it's 2 questions, literally 2 questions. So both Julie and I ask that you take the time to just complete that. It's great feedback for us as we continue to work with you and other parents and families in the future. Julie, was there more information, or Jonathan, other questions before we do close out tonight?
I just got one question in right now, and that is, once a student has decided on a school, how do they accept the federal loans so the funds can get sent to the correct school? And we did have a question before about entrance counseling that I answered, but I think maybe we can talk about that.
Oh, that's a great one. Yes. Yes. So once you accept the financial aid offer, and different colleges do it a little differently. I think sometimes you could just say accept all, or you could let them know what parts you want to accept. But if you accept it all and you accept those federal loans, then the college will let you know that the way you'll receive those federal loans is to go to that studentaid.gov website. You could even go there now and just poke around, but the college will send you to the exact part of that website. And that's where the student will do that, as Jonathan mentioned, that entrance counseling, which it's kind of a funny name. I'd say it's financial education. It's education about the loan, so that the student will really understand, I'm borrowing this much, here's the interest rate. These are my options on how to repay in the future. So there's a whole wealth of information. And then you do take a little quiz, and then hopefully then at least you have that understanding that this is a loan, it's not a grant, I am going to have to pay it back. And then there's a way you can actually sign your promissory note electronically right online. And then that will automatically, you'll put information about your institution and all of that. And the institution will take care of that as well. And the money will get to the right place. So that's how you'll do that.
Great. And then one other thing that somebody mentioned, since we were talking about appeals, somebody just said that they themselves had appealed to their students' top choice and were successful. So I thought that was a good thing to mention, that it can happen. So
that's great. That's great. Yes, we always, right? Our line, Jonathan, is always appeal. I mean, you have to manage your expectations, because sometimes you don't get exactly what you want, or some schools might be able to offer more than others, but if you don't ask, so that's terrific.
That's about it for me.
Oh, thank you. Well, thank you. And thank you all. If there are any other questions, we can hang on a moment, but otherwise, just good luck with all of this, and we're happy to continue to help if we can.
Thank you all for joining, and thank you, Julie. The information was truly valuable. I've already seen a couple of comments on here that said, thank you so much. I now feel like I can actually navigate this process.
Oh, good.
So that's great feedback. But yes, enjoy the rest of your evening. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks.